This is the Canon C300 Mark III. It's a pretty small camera, but it's a very powerful camera. Today I'm going to tell you why you might want to go from something like this to something like this. So a while back we switched over to the Canon C300 Mark III, which is a pretty small camera. It's a pretty light camera. You can break this down to almost this, at its barest form factor, this right here. You would need to add a monitor so you could see your image, but that's pretty much what you're looking at right here. Now, this is great if you like to operate the camera like this, and you just like to do, you know, the camera against the body kind of thing that a lot of people do. But it doesn't work so well on the shoulder. If you try to come up here, the handle's in the wrong spot. You can't see the monitor, you can't see your image. And it's not really the best way to operate up here. This is good for short periods of time, but it can get really heavy like this and you can start to get unstable. That's just not the way I like to operate cameras. So my goal when we switched over to this was to see how could I turn this into a proper shoulder mounted camera. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but I'm going to go through some of the things that I use to turn this into what I consider to be probably the best shoulder mounted solution, not just for the Canon C300 Mark III, but probably for any camera out there. A lot of the things that I'm going to show you and use today, you can use on any camera. You could turn a DSLR or hybrid camera, mirrorless camera into a shoulder mounted camera like this. You could do it with a Canon C300 Mark III, C500. You could do it with an Arri Alexa. You could do it with Sony Venice. Most of these things would work to create a shoulder mounted solution. So let's talk about what some of those are. The first one is power. This is the aftermarket battery. It's the Core Nano. It's a 98 watt hour battery, which is pretty good for the size. Also has a D-tap and a USB out, 5-volt out, which is why I like these. I also have the Canon BP60 and the BP30 that work with this camera body, and the C500 Mark II, C200. But this is kind of nice because if you were only wanted to use this, you could still power an external accessory off here. Now the thing that kind of stinks about this battery solution, and these are even longer than the BP60s, is how far it sticks out. So it's not the greatest of solutions. Then when you go to hold this, you've got it sticking way out against your body like this. I've never really had any issues doing that, but it is kind of awkward. So, but it's got great run times. One of the things that I did when I got this camera is there was a solution by a company called Full Frame Camera. They were making a V-mount battery plate that would attach to the accessory area on the back of the Canon. So the C300 Mark III and the C500 Mark II both have these holes here that you can attach to. This top comes off and allows you to do stuff like attach the extension or possibly attach an EVF. Now at the time when I was trying to order from Full Frame Camera, they were completely out of their V-mount solution. But they did make this cheese plate, which also attaches on the back. And so I wanted to see, could I get the cheese plate and put it on here and use something. They recommended some options for micro V-mount plates that you could use to attach to the cheese plate and create your own V-mount solution. So that's what I did. So we're going to take this here. This cheese plate is going to get installed onto these screw holes here. Which is going to create a way for us to mount our V micro. Now once we do that, you're going to see how this attaches here. So this cheese plate is full of basically Arri 3/8. And then it has locating the proper pins here to attach the B-Bob, V-Micro, and a couple other plates they recommend. So you see how well and how flush that sits on there? It feels like it's a part of the camera and gives you a bunch of different options. Quarter 20s here, like I said, area 3/8, there's some quarter 20s on top, and sits basically flush. At this point, you still have access to all these tools back here. So if you only wanted to run this battery solution here and just use this as extra mounting, you could, and it would work pretty well. But what I like to do is now take our Bebob V Micro, which also has a couple D-taps on it, and the screw hole locations on this are the proper position to attach directly to this plate. So we're going to match that up. And you might ask yourself again, why would you want to do something like this? Well, if you start running any accessories at all off your C300 Mark III, let's say you want to run wireless video solution, you want to run additional monitors, you want to run a different EVF, something like that, you're going to need to power those. And in order to do that, you're probably going to do it off a V-mount battery, and you're probably going to do it via D-tap. The nice part about this is now this becomes part of the camera. We're all one unit again. And I don't have anything hanging off rails at this point. You know, there's no rails down here. I am going to add some in a second to do some other stuff, but you could run like this. You could take your V-mount battery. This is an IDX V-mount. It's their 150. That attaches on. And now we have a battery solution that attaches right to this. Now, we do need to get power down to our power input here. So you will need to get an additional cable. This is a D-tap to 4-pin cable here. And all we're going to do is take that. We're going to attach it to our D-tap port on our V micro plate. The nice thing about the Bebob is it has their D-taps can go either direction. So I like to use the one on this side. This is going to go directly into here. So the nice thing about this now is I don't even have a battery in here in the regular Canon, and I can get power now. So there you go. We've got power coming direct off of this plate through this cord and direct into our DC in here. So that's pretty amazing. But now when you add your power in here, I get a hot swappable battery solution. So I can take this out and maintain power, or I can take this out and maintain power, and the camera's automatically going to switch between these two battery solutions. The other nice thing is you can see that even though we've now made our camera longer, we've got a little bit more of a robust solution here instead of just this tiny bit that's poking out the back here. Now we've got kind of more of, you know, this is a little sturdier now with our V mount against here. So if you wanted to operate that way. This little orange piece here is what they call sprig. I just use that for cable management. Now a couple things to note about this. They make right angle versions of this. If you use a right angle version of this, it will block your access, depending on which way it comes. I've had one to this battery. You would only be able to use the BPA 30, and you wouldn't be able to get it in and out while this is attached. So I recommend you get the straight version, and that's going to give you more access to swap these two batteries. So now that we've got battery done, we got to figure out how are we going to mount the rest of this. We need a handle on here, obviously. Now Canon makes a handle for this, and it's a perfectly fine stock Canon handle, but it doesn't have the best in terms of mounting. I like a few more options there, so I've got an aftermarket handle. But next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our Bright Tangerine top plate. So this is the Bright Tangerine top plate. It works on the C500 Mark II, C300 Mark III, and they actually have screw hole positions for a C200 as well. So you can use it on quite a bit. A couple different cameras. Let's say you've got a C200, you want to upgrade at some point. to the C300 III or C500, you could buy this plate and transfer it between them. The other thing that's nice about the bright tangerine version is it has a sliding airy dovetail up here. So this is the airy dovetail. If you wanted to mount this, let's say to a robotic arm or a crane or something like that, you could do it via this dovetail up here. And then because this slides, we can take this, and that's going to help us when it comes time to balancing and positioning our camera. So dovetail goes on like that, and that locks in place now. So now we've got a more robust top plate. It has a lot more mounting options on it. I've also got a little cold shoe on the side here. That allows me to take that, mount a microphone, which I'll show you in a second. And also to put a lot of other attachments on here. So now that we've got our top plate, we're going to put our top handle on. Now the top handle that I use is comprised of several different pieces here. I've got a wooden camera top handle V2, which is just this center piece here. I've got a small rig extension, which is just this piece right here. If I can get that to focus here. So we've got the small rig portion right here, which just attaches to the back of this. And then I've actually got a really unique piece here on the front, which is from a company and a guy called Ratworks. And this is what he calls his chainsaw handle. It's comprised of this piece right here, which is this little bracket, and then this cork handle that you can adjust and position however you want. And I'll show you how that works. That makes that really handy. So we're going to take this. I like the screw down version of this versus like something like a Nato Rail because it's just a little more robust, which is what I'm looking for. And we're going to screw this in. The nice thing about this handle is it's got channels as opposed to specific screw hole positions, and allows you to adjust to fit this perfectly and find the right holes on here, which sometimes can be difficult. So the nice thing about having a big robust handle like this is when you start having to mount a lot more stuff, you need this real estate. And I'm going to show you how this works. See, you've got really nice two hands on this handle that you can pick up. And the reason he calls this a chainsaw handle, if you've ever operated a chainsaw, it's got a handle across the top and then you hold onto the back. Pretend I'm out here sawing trees, I guess. And that's how that works. These cameras are big, they can get heavy depending on the lenses that are on the front and all the other stuff. And now I can hold this in a way, if I want to get low shots, I can get down low, and I've got something more than just this top handle here where I have to lean over, the camera's shaking around like this. This is a lot sturdier and a lot more robust and is going to allow me to get steadier shots when I'm trying to get low angles. So that's where that handle comes from. Now, the next thing you got to worry about though is, okay, where am I going to mount my monitor now? So let's talk a little bit about that. Again, when this camera's on your shoulder, you need to be able to see the monitor in front of you. If you want to work with an EVF, great. You could do that. It's on the shoulder, you look through the EVF, and maybe it doesn't matter where the monitor's at because you're only using the monitor on sticks or something like that. But when I get here, I'm going to need to get the monitor out in front of me. It needs to be far enough away that I can actually see it and I can position it. So a couple different things that are going to make that happen. One is we're going to use 15 mil rods. And we're going to position that through the built-in hole here. That's already part of the wooden camera right there. I've got a Zacuto bracket here that I just used to get this a little further out from the camera body. I could use a longer 15 mil rod, but the other thing this does, it allows me to position this just a tiny bit more forward. Let's talk about Nato Rails. It is very difficult to find a Nato rail that is long enough to get the monitor as far out in front of your face to where you can actually see it. I don't know about you, but as I get a little bit older, it's a little harder to see things this close in front of my face. It needs to be far enough out that you can actually focus on it. That's where this comes in. We're going to position this. And now, as you can see, I can put my monitor all the way out here and be able to see it. This is the stock Canon setup for monitors. You've seen this before. It has this, you know, multi-directional way you can mount it. Allows you to get it out to the side and swing down. Allows you to put it on top. Now the issue is, normally where this mounts on the front of the handle, probably about here-ish, is it does not get it nearly out far enough out that you can actually see it when the camera's on your shoulder. So we're actually going to take this apart. We only want the monitor portion of this. Luckily, that monitor portion is a 1/4-20. You can use a 1/4-20. This is our stock Canon monitor. We're going to take a small rig Nato rail to 1/4-20 monitor mount here. We're going to attach that to our monitor. Right into the 1/4-20 hole here on the side. And then that spin that around the right way. It's going to go on our Nato rail. Lock that in place. This goes into our video input. And then we can do a little cable cleanup here. And now we've got a monitor that's far enough out that we can actually see it. And the other nice part about having this like this is I can do this and I can fold this monitor in when this needs to go into a bag. I can also loosen this, and this can now fold, especially if I detach this monitor cable here. Again, can fold this way. And now you see how we've went to something that's very compact that can go right into a bag. You get where you're going, comes out of the bag, locks in, monitor folds out, camera goes on the shoulder, and now I'm operating and I can see the screen in front of my face. So, very key. So what else are we going to put on this now? Well, how do we get this properly on the shoulder and get our hand grip out to where we can actually use it? So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to detach our hand grip here. And we're going to get that hand grip further out. Now, when I'm operating off the shoulder, I like to use a Vct shoulder plate. This is a VCT plate by a company called Rush Design. I've got an entire video just about this Rush Design shoulder plate. So if you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description, or go check that out here or here. And what we have on here is another bright tangerine dovetail that we're going to use as a quick release to put this onto our shoulder pad. So just to make this more clear which part is the shoulder pad here. if I take this off, this is the shoulder pad. Has a little Velcro pad here on the bottom that just comes on and off. And this is it. This is the Rush Design pad. Like I said, go check that out if you're interested. All right, so what are we going to use as a base plate? We're going to use the Bright Tangerine left field 15 millimeter lightweight standard quick release universal base plate. Has a quick release here on the side. Has different plates depending on which camera you have that give you the proper height on the riser, and also has its own positioning for rails. So first thing we're going to do is release the dovetail so we can get access to our screws here. Okay. Once we have that nice and tight, now we have our quick release base plate attached. And what we can do is take that base plate, snap onto the dovetail, and now we have a shoulder mounted solution here. Take this, goes on the shoulder. I've got a Kino grip wooden ball here. Now, what do we do to make this a proper shoulder mounted camera? We need to get our hand grip down here into a position that actually makes sense. So we're going to reposition our hand grip. Down here, what I'm attaching my hand grip to is a Vct forget exactly which one this is, but I'll leave a link in the description. It's a little Vct rig, allows you to reposition and adjust the hand grip here. I've got an extension cable to extend our grip, and then we're just going to re-plug our grip in here so that now we have camera control from the shoulder. So now I've got all my camera controls right here. I've got an extra hand here on the Kino grip ball. It's a Kino grip ball, wooden ball, custom made little hand grip that allows me to, again, properly balanced on the shoulder. You can see that I can hold this. Well, I need to put my lens on. So let's do that. All right, so we've got power. We've got all our camera control. We're going to put our lens on here. This is a Canon 18-80. And now we've got a fully built shoulder rig. So fire this up. So I've got Canon 18-80. I've got monitor out in front of me that I can actually see in front of my face and be able to check on. I can touch the focus. I can do all that stuff. I've got proper balance and hand control. So often you see these shoulder rigs and they're completely unbalanced. What you should be able to do, this one's a little, a little wobbly, but see how that rests on my shoulder and I'm barely controlling it? It's not flipping forward. It's not falling back. It's balanced over the central point of my shoulder here. So often you see people doing stuff like this and their shoulder pad's way back here and their hands are clear out here, and they're fighting it like that to hold the camera. This is not how you shoulder mount a camera. I see this so often. It drives me absolutely nuts. The camera needs to sit properly on your shoulder and balance, which is what this does. It gives me the monitor out front. I've got camera control here. I can start and stop. I can put this hand up to operate. If I want to zoom manually, I've got access to all of this. Adjust my zoom. This gives me a third point of contact here with the Kino grip. And now we have a proper shoulder mounted camera. If I need to set it down flat, I can adjust this little on the Zacuto. Now the camera rests flat. It's not flopping over. If I need to, again, throw it in a car in a bag, I can fold that back. And if I need to go on a tripod, I can go straight from shoulder to tripod with a VCT plate. So pretend this is on a tripod here. So if this is on a tripod, I can go straight onto my tripod. I need to grab the camera and go. I need to go shoulder mounted. Release, bring that up. Adjust our handle, and now I'm good to go. Now, microphone. We've just got an Ore microphone mount. Goes right into the side here. Tightens down. This is a Rode NTG5, I believe. Yep, Rode NTG5 microphone. Dead cat windshield. So now we've got our onboard audio. We've got a shoulder mounted solution. And if I need to do a wireless, this is the Sennheiser AVX. Very small little control, very, very tiny receiver here. This can go into our input 2. If I can get it lined up. Now I've got wireless mic, onboard audio. Can go up to the shoulder. Adjust my monitor, and we're off to the races. So if I need to go low with a fully built camera, I can easily tilt the monitor, take it, and then I'll operate low. I can grab that, adjust. Let's say I'm on sticks. I want to bring this maybe closer. Again, loosen that up. Bring that up top, and I'm on a tripod watching from here. I don't have to bend down or adjust this. This gives me a lot of flexibility. Last thing, let's say you're outside. You need to be able to see your monitor a little bit better and operate. This is a little lens hood by Wooden Camera. Perfect size. Slide right over here. And now I've got a lens hood that I can look through while I'm on the shoulder here. Like I said, this screen's bright, but it's not so bright that you don't need a little bit of help. And this allows me to do that in bright sunlight. There it is.